Thank you. I just wanted to continue the theme, really. It isn't really about the people. It isn't always about systems. When we're asked to do the speech today, I thought the cost of claims operations is a major cost for all insurers. And I wanted to focus our session on costs and elements around the cost, visible and invisible costs to do with claims and claims operations. And I do want to talk about EG as well, which I will do, but I wanted to major first of all on costs. Like Ben, in a previous life, I used to deal with lending and collections, and I used to blame the underwriters as well. So it was always their fault, never our fault. Just share with you a stat first of all, and this jumped out at me when I was looking at doing some research for this session, and I thought it was quite a staggering figure. That of all the ombudsman-related activity, apart from PPI, most of the complaints related to claims operations. I thought it couldn't really be ignored, because as a customer, as an individual, as a person, often it's one of the major interactions that you have, sometimes the only interaction with an insurer once you've taken the policy out, once the initial introduction has been engaged. It's a death, it's a burglary, it's a motor claim or whatever. But whilst, and Ben's presentation's brought that out very well, whilst there's lots of individuals, I think, doing a fantastic job, and there's lots of drives to get this process right, somewhere it isn't going right somewhere. And there's that stat sort of reflects it in many ways, that there's still some things going wrong. Perhaps encouragingly, the claims and complaints operations often reside in the back office, so we can potentially do something about it. But equally, so do the costs relating to claims operations. Now, if we have predominantly cost relating to claims, my view is that there's a lot more to that cost than meets the eye. And I just wanted to expand on this a little bit in this session. There's the actual cost, the payout. This is the claim amount. This is what we're going to pay for this activity. And that's visible. That's a visible cost. But there's the claims processing cost going on behind this. And if we're not getting that right, that's a hidden cost. And how much do we really understand about that cost? And how much is that really impacting? And then there's the complaints processing cost. If it goes wrong and and this has to go to our complaints function, then there's another processing cost that adds into that. There's a potential compensation cost that may be directed by the regulator. There may be a gesture cost that we have to pay out to avoid a case being adjudicated or going to the regulator. For me, there was also another cost, and it's an opportunity cost. If we're focusing our time on costs and claims and complaints operations, which is big claims operations functions, which is where we're spending a lot of our time, that's potentially stifling business growth. We heard a lot yesterday about new emerging players, disruptors, who aren't involved in this activity in such detail. They're not having this opportunity cost taken. They're potentially coming along to steal some of the market from existing players. But stifling business growth, stifling development, stifling that management time, the critical time to look at driving and developing the business, is taken up with managing and dealing with complaints or claims-related operational issues. Diversion from managing the business. Which sort of begs the question for me, how much more should we achieve if we were processing claims more efficiently, and do we not have to get involved in the residual impacts of complaints or claims operations? If we were to say to businesses, and we do in EG, what would you do with 10%, 20, 30, 40% more productivity? The answer is probably a lot. The answer, in many ways, is probably that you wouldn't be processing complaints or claims operations activity. I'll come back to that one in a second or two. We operate across sectors in EG, not just within insurance, but all financial services sectors, utilities, local government, etc. Lots of organisations have specific nuances that are distinct to themselves. But we do see lots of commonality, common problems, and I've listed those up there, where there are lots of complicated activity, complicated processes that cross lots of silos, lots of barriers internally, lots of platforms, lots of legacy systems through merger, acquisition, organic growth. We see organisations that perhaps haven't got the single view of all work states at all times, in real time, and can't look down on operations and see one consistent set of activity. We see that a lot. And that impacts when, how can you demonstrate those sort of three lines of defence internally, internal audit, external audit, how can we demonstrate our full end-to-end processing activity? I'll come back to that in a second or two. The recent Gartner report that I was reading recently has talked about the change in landscape that we're all facing, and we've talked about that and heard about that a lot yesterday, and more so today and perhaps tomorrow as well. The impact of the mobility of workforce compared to the impact of the internet over the last 20 years. How many devices have we all got with us today? You look around the desks, we've all got a mobile, a tablet, laptop, others. So there's a changing landscape going on, and it's the pace of keeping up with that landscape. And it is all about the proactive intervention, having the information to hand to make those decisions that make an impact. Understanding where people are, where resources are, what available and skilled resources are, so getting the people in the right place at the right time, optimising the use of all resources, wherever they're located, mobile, in this office, in a neighbouring office, in a different country, in a different time zone, ensuring that you have the ability to have that true end-to-end view of processing activity. And another example, it's often the case that it takes a long time to move house. The actual processing time to complete a mortgage is around about 8 hours. Nobody moves house in 8 hours. It takes months. Why is that the case, that it takes that long? It's the disjointed processing activity, legacy processes that we have, and it's often coupled with an incomplete view of all of operations and all of available resource to deal with the activity when it's required. Understanding and having that view enables risk mitigation. You can evidence to the regulator, evidence internally what is happening, and again make the proactive intervention that you need to do to understand how operations work. A quick view of where we're working with organisations to do this. I won't major on that. Just very briefly and in conclusion, we believe you do need to have a view of all operations. As Ben was saying, it isn't all about systems. It is about the use of the technology to enable the intervention. In EG, we do bring a software tool. You've seen it demonstrated, the mobile application, and Work Manager is our core operational tool, and effective it is at understanding all operational processes. But it's the people side of the equation that makes the difference. The technology is and always will be an enabling factor in any business. It's understanding what to do with that information that makes the real difference. We as a business understand that. We understand that the two things combined really will drive the ability to understand the operational cost, in this case of claims, but as a business as a whole, and to do something about it. We specialise in helping organisations either do more with what they've got by understanding the current situation. So if I've got, for example, a business imperative to grow the business by 20-30%, I probably don't want to grow the staffing numbers by 20-30%. If I've got a business imperative to take cost out of the business I need to understand where I can do that without impacting service, without impacting service levels, and without impacting compliance. I need to do this very quickly, and I need to do this tangibly, and we enable organisations to do that. And that's really where I wanted to be today, just to give you a flavour of how we see costs, the impact of cost, visible and invisible, and just share with you where we believe we're able to make an impact.
Okay, so we've heard from David there about easy solutions. So do we have any questions on that? Any questions at all? Just wondering if you've got any examples in there of how, if we think about your solution there, which is very much a mobile solution, technology solution, and then we heard from Ben around the empathy, how you've seen those two marry up to generate a great customer experience with some of your clients?
Well, I think they do marry up very, very well, because it's as Ben was saying, there's a great desire from organisations to equip individuals with the information to show that empathy. As Ben's presentation showed as well, it's very easy to step out of that and go into process. Having the information to hand, having sometimes the window on the back office from the front office, if somebody rings up and says, well, what's happening with my claim? Having the ability to tell somebody, well, yes, this happened here, and the next action is going to happen here, and you'll get an answer here, is often enough. That can often reduce the desire of the customer to take it further, to escalate it, cause a repeat call, cause a complaint to be originated.
Great, okay. So, any questions? Sorry, there's one here.
Hi, Paul Harvey from Contact Partners. It seemed that the ubiquitous element there was the mobile application. What happens if someone in the chain of events, in the processing, and perhaps more likely the fulfillment, maybe somebody who's conducting a repair, doesn't have the application? Do you engage with other technologies? I mean, or is that a weak link in the chain?
The answer is that we do both. What I showed in the video was our mobile application, which is designed to link to our back office technology, so that the front, middle and back office, if I use the front as maybe the contact centre, the middle maybe as the loss adjuster or person on the road, and the back as the claims resolution or claims processing area in this case. There's a connectivity between all three then. So they've all got the same view. And that's one of the game changers, having that consistent view of what's happening. And the mobile example was designed to illustrate, we're all at a conference today. If a message was to come through, as you saw in the video, that something's going wrong, you can do something about it. You're not having to wait till next day. So, which is an impact for the business if we're waiting for next day. It's more of an impact for the customer. The idea is that it's joined up from a customer service perspective. So again, meeting those drivers, as I said at the beginning, there's a cost driver, there's also a value driver and a customer service driver as a differentiators. Why would I go to insurance company A or insurance company B? There needs to be differentiators, and joining these things up and enables that to happen, if that answers your question.
Okay, thank you for the question. One final one, or are we done? Okay, I think we're done. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so David, and sponsor of this workstream, Easy Solutions, thank you.